hello. I am about to turn into Spearfish Canyon. Now, you've gone down Spearfish Canyon before with me. This time, we're going to do it on October the 1st. So, I'll just tell you, spoiler alert, what was kind of fun about this trip was, holy cow, were the leaves pretty. I was very excited by the leaves. So, Spearfish Canyon, you turn here at a red light, oddly enough. You run through a quick country club, and then, boom, you're in the canyon. The canyon itself, a lot of limestone and cliffs, and you wouldn't believe it driving in the canyon, but you actually rise 2,000 feet as you drive through the canyon. And that is quite a ways. That sounds very trite, but wow. So, it wasn't an easy thing to work with. Now, the Burlington Railroad actually was the first attempt at navigating the Spearfish Canyon with mechanized travel. 1893, the Grand Island Wyoming Railroad line opened Spearfish Canyon for the first time. It had 375 curves and lots of up and downhill climbing. It was a 32-mile. The 32-mile Spearfish Spur left Deadwood, rose 1,800. I'm quoting 1,886 feet and 6 miles to Trojan, called Portland, and then down 2,778 feet in 25 miles, spanning 33 bridges to Spearfish. And then it was bought out by the Chicago, Burlington, Quincy Railroad for $2 million. And yeah. At that time, they were running one train a day. And apparently, from what I'm reading here, the crew was happy to let fishermen, sightseers, picnickers, berry pickers, and the like off any place they chose, and then they would pick them up again later on the return trip. And yeah. Here we go. One of the most scenic and thrilling spots on the Spearfish Canyon train ride was Spearfish Falls. The crew would stop the train on the vibrating trestle spanning the falls, offering a thrilling sight of the water's thundering impact below. Let's see, the railroad was abandoned in 1933 after a devastating flood. And there we go. Okay, so true story. Later, a lot of the railroad bed did become a road. This road. And I'm enjoying the spectacular fall colors. I'm enjoying the pine, the ponderosa pine. Now, there is a beetle in some of these pine, and they're working on it. They're trying to avoid the forest being devastated by this beetle. You'll see some forest damage when we get on to Deadwood. But anyway, all of this is just amazing. And I am going to get off the road. In fact, you're going to see Spearfish Falls. That's why I brought that up in my little talk there. Spearfish Falls is spectacular. All right, so let me move on. I want to quote somebody else here. Frank Lloyd Wright actually visited Spearfish Canyon in 1935. Now, at that time, the road would have been basically the remnants of the Burlington Railroad. It was all muddy, and it was just a mess. But here's what he said. He said, "But how is it that I've heard so little of this miracle, and we, toward the Atlantic, have heard so much of the Grand Canyon, when this is even more miraculous? All the better eventually that the Dakota are not on the through line to the coast. My hat is off to South Dakota treasures." 1950s, they actually built sort of a roadway. Let's see. 1965, they had to rebuild the road thanks to a flood. 1989, it became a scenic byway. And let's see. Yeah, 1990, it was recognized as a scenic byway. All right. Now, I like that there are a lot of places to pull off. I can't remember if that was an important one. I wasn't paying attention. I was looking at a website that had the information that I'm stealing. But I love driving the Spearfish Canyon. I've driven it in winter. I've driven it in summer. I've driven it in spring. This is fall. Depending on the season I drive it in, it doesn't matter. It's fun. Now, I will concede I would not enjoy driving this canyon in really rotten weather, but that's another story. This isn't rotten weather. This was absolutely perfect. In fact, I don't know if I could have asked for a better day for this. You'll see some really spectacular leaves in this video. And I may or may not remark on them. It's just really cool. So, yeah, I love the Spearfish Canyon. I love going down to South Dakota. And there is a big, huge part of me that thinks, wouldn't it be fun to move down there? I don't want to live in the canyon. That I'd like to see actually fewer people living in the canyon and it'd be more natural. But wouldn't it be fun to live in like Spearfish or Lead? I love the town of Lead, actually. And Spearfish is just kind of a fun town. But Lead is just, wow. that really steep downhill street, which you'll see next week, I think. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I don't remember. Okay. Now, I grew up back east in Pennsylvania. In Pennsylvania, you actually would see a lot more colors than you see here. Basically, here the trees all turn yellow in the fall. And, it's very dramatic, but, back east I remember red and yellow and orange and all kinds of bright colors. You just don't see that in the Spearfish Canyon, and that's part of the biology here. But it's still fun. I love this. So that brings up a point worth considering. Would I love this if I lived there? And I just got through saying I'd love to move to Spearfish or Lead. How would my view change if I actually lived there? And we often tend to take it for granted what we have. When I was living in Pennsylvania, I'm dead serious. I lived in a scenic, beautiful part of Pennsylvania. And there's a lot of really cool things there that I never went to see. And there were a lot of really cool things within driving distance I never went to see. I mean, I never saw Ricketts Glen or Watkins Glen until after I moved to North Dakota. And on a visit home, said to my parents, this would be really, really, really cool to see. Never saw it when I lived there. Now, my parents are homebodies, and I to an extent, I'm kind of like that too, but I do like to get out. So, why don't we appreciate what we have? Well, I don't have a good answer except for you're used to it, and like anything, you take it for granted. So wherever you live, I really would challenge you to get out and explore. Where I live, 30 miles north of me, Badlands and forest combined. And I've taken you through it before, and I probably will again. I'm kind of tempted to do a winter drive in it, but, I just need to find the time, and time is a little difficult at this time of year. Now, all these cliffs here, a lot of limestone. They're not granite. Some of them are up to 1,000 feet high. It's quite something. There's actually gold in some of these hills. You won't see much of it. A lot more of the gold is elsewhere. But and somewhere here there's a power plant. I can't remember if we passed it or not, because like I said, I'm not quite watching the video. I'm also looking at a website that's giving me some data and information. But there is a defunct power plant that was powered by I guess a diversion from the Spearfish Falls. And anyway, a few years ago they restored the lake, or not the lake, the falls, and that was neat. In fact, it's so neat, I'm going to take you down there. Now, we're not there yet. This is a different waterfall. This is Bridal Veil Falls. Bridal Veil Falls is... it's attractive. At this time of year, there's not a lot there. You know, it's very tall. I may take you there in the spring. It just... it's right there on the road, so it's one everybody sees. But, yeah, what the hell? It's worth looking at. Just not on this trip, because with all those cars there, I just don't feel like parking. And I wonder when I see something like that, if that's an official pull-off or if that is an unofficial pull-off. But, you know, I hats off to South Dakota for making this road. This is absolutely spectacular landscape to explore. My hike to Spearfish Falls is really cool. But that's not the only cool thing along this highway. Rough Falls is also very cool. I did not take you there because time, but very cool. And look at the light in those golden leaves. Isn't that amazing? With those dark green ponderosa pine behind them. I mean, wow. I just, I don't think I could have picked a better day. Which I'm still rambling, and part of me thinks I should just shut up and show you the drive. But then I realized that, oh yeah, I turned the microphone off on my dash cam because I listen to music on the iPad and the music is all copyrighted, so I can't play the microphone. And it's a lot of road noise, so you know you don't want to hear that either. I'm actually drawn kind of a blank here. I've been thinking a little bit about these natural areas and you know, making them available to people makes people want to protect them, but at the same time having them available to people means people cause damage and erosion and, you know, roads and so on in them. So not sure. There's a happy balance in there somewhere. I'm just not sure where it is. Meanwhile, let me tell you about the rest of this video, because I'm about to come up on a picnic area, and this will fit in perfectly. The rest of the video, I'm going to visit Lead, just to drive through. I don't stop. I do want to stop there, just I won't on this trip. I will go on to Hill City. I think I stopped at the winery, but I don't remember for sure. I mean, since I'm down there, why the hell not? But then I go on, continue south from Hill City. Now, I was supposed to keep going, but I misread my map and I turned. So I end up taking you by Mount Rushmore. Now, I won't stop there on this trip, but I do take you by Mount Rushmore. And I'll just tell you that road, although it wasn't the road I'd intended to take at all, that is quite the road. Spectacular. This, you know, I love this scenery. This is gorgeous. This is something I could live in. That scenery around Mount Rushmore is more like, wow, tourism. It's just a totally different level of beauty, of more rugged and more, not as homey and welcoming, more just impressive. So I really, really look forward to you seeing that video. But anyway, instead of turning toward Mount Rushmore, I should have kept going straight, and I didn't know. Well, okay, so I went past Mount Rushmore, down the hill, and I'm like, okay, do I just give up? Because I just wasted a bunch of time. But I didn't. I just went on the highway the back way. If I would have gone the correct way, after every tunnel, Mount Rushmore would have been framed in the opening. I think that would have been super cool as a video. Next time, I'm doing that. This time, I didn't. But, yeah. So I traveled on the highway. I ended up, of course, the Iron Mountain Highway is interesting. It has all those pigtails and such. And the whole idea is to raise altitude very quickly. It includes some tunnels, some places where the road splits, and then you get on kind of a regular highway. But the really amazing part of it was actually Needles Highway. Now, I missed a few important landmarks on Needles Highway, but wow. Needles Highway. Well, honestly, there's just nothing else like it. Needles Highway is amazing. These really tall, sharp rocks. The amazing views. Of course, right now as I film this, December 18th, I can't drive Needles Highway because it's closed due to snow. They close it off for the winter. It's just the way it is. And you'll see why when we get there. This highway right here on Spearfish Canyon basically stays open through the winter. I imagine in bad weather it does close just because of bad weather, but yeah. So you're really going to get to see something special. And then after Needles Highway, I came home through Hill City. I just really like the Black Hills. It's beautiful down there. The science teacher from the school next door to me, which closed when I moved here, actually retired down to the Black Hills, and I hear that, and then I visit like this, and I think, yeah, I can totally see why. And I'll tell you what, that is in my head for when I get rich. I say when. Or when I retire. That might be fun. So, I don't know. Teaching salaries down South Dakota are terrible. But after I'm retired, I don't care. I'll be collecting North Dakota retirement, and maybe I could teach in South Dakota, or maybe I could substitute teach in South Dakota and collect some extra money and just kind of have fun. So it's good to have a dream anyway. And, yeah. So, nothing about fountain pens here. Just a beautiful, beautiful landscape. Now, if I were to drive this right now, I've taken my parents down there. It was totally clear here in the prairie. Then we get down there and we got stuck in snow. Altitude definitely will affect the weather. I'll tell you something else. I drove down South Dakota once. I pulled off at Belfouche at a store. And the guy says, "Hey, you're from North Dakota, ain't you?" And I'm like, "Well, how did you know?" Because I wasn't in my car at the time. I was in the store. He says, "Well, because you have a big, heavy coat on." Yeah, just moving that many miles south of the border warmed it up. So altitude cools it off and gets you some weather, but moving south of the border also warms it up. So it's kind of a horse apiece. In the prairie part, it is a lot warmer. In the hills, I suppose you get more weather. So that was interesting. I'm pulling into a picnic area here, and I hope you can hear me. I don't have this amazing microphone that I'm borrowing, but I've pretty much decided I'm going to buy. So here we go. This is me talking. to the iPad.
I noticed I pulled off the road there. I really need to get up and move around. I've been sitting in the car too long, and so I'm Spearfish Canyon. What the heck, maybe I'll take this out for a spin. I'm definitely taking my real camera out for a spin. Of course, the camera can't capture the smell of pine in the air, but yeah, this is awesome. So the whole road is lined with these very tall cliffs. And of course it's forested. And if you hear the sound in the background, kind of like wind, that's Spearfish Creek. Not that easy to get to. It's not an official path, but what the hell. So that's what made all this. And so yeah, I think I'm just a little bit jealous that this is down here. I kind of wish there was stuff like this where I live, but that's what makes visiting this fun. Alright, look up. Spin around a little. And too much light. Alright, I'm going to do something you're not supposed to do when you do video. They hate this on YouTube. I just took a picture. Let's see if I can frame it with the iPad. Not quite. But I had that tree, that rock, that sign, and that red bush in it. So it looked good on the camera. So we'll see. If you're wondering what's around the other corner, and the light gets kind of awkward here because of the sun, but since it's under a cloud, maybe. So I'll see if I share some pictures too. There she is. And just for fun, this is the kind of picnic area it is.
So there was no real reason why I picked that particular spot to stop. I really needed to get out of the car and walk, and that one was on the same side of the road as the Spearfish Creek. So yeah, there we go. By the way, fun fact, I'm trying to find the right page with my notes here. This is actually all carved out a couple of years ago. 600 million years ago, this whole area is covered by a sea, and then somewhere, 60 to 30 million years ago, it was carved out as the land masses as the waters subsided and the land masses appeared. We're actually on National Scenic Byway 14A, and it's a 19-mile drive. So, there you go. A little bit of extra information that you didn't have before. Let's see. Anything else I could write down, I could talk about right now? Well, alright, so we have ponderosa pine around here. It might be worth mentioning that they are in danger. There is something called a mountain pine beetle that is eating them. I guess it has decimated Colorado. It's also caused a lot of damage in the Black Hills, not here, but when you look out across the Black Hills and you see ponderosa pine that are brown and dead, probably that darn mountain pine beetle eating them. Insect damage is very real. Now, I grew up, I think I've mentioned, Pennsylvania, which is a deciduous forest, where I lived anyway, and we would get gypsy moth infestations every year. Ew, by the way, when you go walking out in the woods. But gypsy moth infestations, and they would shred all the leaves and just totally destroy everything. Poop everywhere, they'd fall on you, they were horrible. But then, summer would wind on, it would look like winter. The gypsy moths would go into their cocoons, the leaves would resprout, and there you go. And it wasn't that great. I mean, that's very hard on a tree, but at least they could do it. Now, the trouble when you're a ponderosa pine is you can't just sprout new needles like that. And that's why this mountain pine beetle is so bad for them. Back when I used to teach biology, I used to tell a whole story about, we had the gypsy moths, well, ew, but then one year they were so overpopulated they caught a horrible virus. We're all like, yay! Forests actually smelled like something died in them because there were so many of their stupid little corpses everywhere. And then the next year, something else came along, a more native invader called elm spanworms, and they would actually bite you with their little chompers. So, now right up here is, I believe, right around this turn. I probably should have previewed this, but whether it's right around this turn or it's the next turn after it, is a place called the Spearfish Canyon Lodge. I've stayed there before. I stayed there in the winter, actually, when it was a lot cheaper. There was no snowmobiling because there was no snow at that time. So I guess it was early spring. No snow around. Across the road is the Latch String. No, it's just called the Latch String. It's a really nice restaurant. In fact, I'm going to park in its parking lot, and we're going to hike behind it to Spearfish. Oh, shoot. What's it called? Did I write down Spearfish Falls? There we go. Which is the Spearfish Creek. It was actually restored in 2003 after a 5-mile plume from Savoy, which that is basically Savoy, where the Latch String and the Spearfish Canyon Lodge are located. But anyway, a plume from Savoy to the Morris hydro plant, which we have passed, and I forgot to remark upon, was blocked up. So anyway, you'll see it back restored to its original flow. I find it interesting, back then they didn't think much of destroying a pretty waterfall just to get power. And, the country was hungry for power. If you ever visit Sioux Falls, South Dakota, there's a big waterfall there, hence the name Sioux Falls. But part of it was destroyed for industry. That's just, I guess, what people do. So, turning into the Latch String, that's the Latch String. Spearfish Canyon Lodge, you'll kind of see it off to the side there. And anyway, very good food at the Latch String. Kind of expensive, but what do you expect in a place like this? I actually had plans of eating lunch here, but I didn't realize how busy it would be, and I just, I wasn't even sure at this point if I'd find somewhere to park. Yeah, I didn't end up eating at the Latch String. I actually had a disgusting sandwich at a gas station, but it was food, so yeah. So here I am, lucky to find a spot. When I pulled out, there were vultures waiting to grab my spot. In fact, one I had to wait for because he was so close to me I couldn't back out. So there's the Latch String. I'm going to go on a hike now down to the Spearfish Falls. And that was a new one. Across the street there, Rough Lock Falls, but we won't go there today. That's behind the lodge.
Stayed at that place across the street there. don't get to film myself with this kind of backdrop very often, but I'm right on top of Spearfish Creek right now. What the heck, let's do it again. Look at that. Make you a little jealous. Hey, what state is this? Oh, still South Dakota. But I would swear I've seen this exact view in Pennsylvania where I grew up. These are the Spearfish Falls. I have trees in the way where I'm standing, but there's people in the other spot, so we'll get there when I get there. But there is a really nice viewing place, which gives them their privacy. And then we can go back the way we came. So, not often you get a cool backdrop like that with all the people around. I was a little self-conscious about talking. So, walking back now. It's the same trip back as it was down. Come on. You're jealous. Alright, so I'm going to head back to the car. We'll get on to Needles Highway. Finish up the canyon first, of course. And I do suggest Rough Lock Falls, which is in the same spot. It's just across the road. A little bit longer hike, but not as steep. This one, if you're older, might be a little steep, but I'm not old, so it was no problem for me. Like I said, how often do I get to have a backdrop like this? So, on my way back to the car, I'm at the top, and a lot more driving to go yet. The back side is the Lamplighter. Really nice restaurant. Kind of high priced, but it is good food. Well, I hope that was as fun for you as it was for me. I got to see the whole thing. You only got to see bits and pieces. But, headed on out of Spearfish Canyon now. Going to go through Lead, and then Needles Highway, which I guess will go through Hill City. Let's see, I can't see what time it is without the car turned on, but I'm going to look at lunch first, just not here at the Lamplighter. So, I really like that hike. I recommend it. It's a nice, easy walk. If you do need to rest a little bit, they have it, with switchbacks, and they have some benches for resting. So, very user-friendly. It's, 120 feet down, and then I don't recall exactly how long it is, but, you saw, it's not bad. And you get to park right here at the Lamplighter. I almost think that this parking lot could be a little bit bigger just to accommodate all the hikers, but it is what it is. It looked like you could hike out to the falls from the top, but because of some problems with the ground, they had it, there's Spearfish Creek coming down, by the way. They had it fenced off, so I didn't bother walking down there. I guess they're worried about people falling in or the ground crumbling or something. I'm not exactly sure what's going on there, but whatever. I just mentioned a couple other little things, and I got a tiny bit of history. In fact, I'll put one or two links down here. But these are all limestone cliffs for the most part. I believe it's all limestone, actually. Apparently there's a hike that we passed called the Needle where you can go up and see kind of an untouched landscape is what they say. And you can also see some mountain pine beetle damage from up there. There was a gold rush in 1876 here. One of the websites that I'll link to actually talks about what they're calling a clash of cultures. Let's see. Not this one, apparently.
Anyway, I'll link to a couple. But gold was discovered in the northern Black Hills during the late summer of 1875. By the following spring, bonanza strikes, I'm quoting, had been made inside Deadwood Gulch and Bear Gulch. Because these two regions became the primary focal points of the ensuing gold rush, miners quickly pioneered a trail to span the 16 miles that lay between them. And, yeah, that part of that trail still exists. Yeah, it talks about Mr. George Belshaw, 1891, built a one-room cabin at Savoy. It was used as an office. There was a sawmill there, right across from where the Spearfish Canyon Resort, the lodge is. So probably where the latch string is. And let's see. There was a railroad there. And a lot of the forest was cut to accommodate the great expansion demands and all that stuff. All right, so yeah, and Calamity Jane is actually going to play into this, and there's a bunch of other people that I could mention, but I'll just mention Calamity Jane because we're going to come up on. I can't tell right now how long it is. We are going to come up on Cheyenne Crossing anyway. Cheyenne Crossing is at where this attaches to Highway 85. Cheyenne Crossing is very, well, not much there, but the reason I even bring up Cheyenne Crossing is because there used to be a stagecoach that ran down the hill. I guess that they used to use actually as the horses would be used to slow it down. I have no trouble doing a steep hill in a car. When you're doing a wagon on a steep hill, wood wagon, it's a little different. You don't want your horses going ahead of it. And I guess they would use some brakes and stuff. It's kind of amazing what we take for granted. It was a real undertaking to get through this area. And amazingly, when you realize how high up Lead is, there was rail running in this whole area. I mean, a lot of this here was a rail bed. But, so they used to do some pretty amazing things in this kind of country. And you'll find it back east, too. I mean, there's a place near Altoona, Pennsylvania, where they used to drag barges up a mountainside. They had, 12 different, what were they called, wheelhouses or something? They would turn cranks to crank them up these mountainsides and then slowly lower them down the next side to the next stream. I mean, that's... wow. We wouldn't do that now. I mean, and it's all muscle labor, basically, at that time. So it really gives you an appreciation. And, of course, this was all, for the most part, was cut at one time to provide the ties and such for the railroad. So, yeah, and then you have the gold here, and there were Native American cultures here. There's just a lot going on. And so I putting a couple links in the video description, like I said, I would suggest perusing them because I'm not an expert on this area, and I'm just pretty much introducing it to you and say, hey, look at the cool landscape while I babble watching the video. Because I learned it's worthless trying to talk in the car. I can't remember stuff, I get off subject, and it's got to be more about me because details and such. I'm driving. There's a reason they don't want you using your cell phone while you're driving, too. That's why I'm filming this sitting in the comfort of my living room, by the way, on a very cold day. That looks nothing like this. But I also have a hard time filming or talking this long, so I do have to look up some material. If you're curious, your biology teacher could probably tell you about the yellow color of these leaves, but I'll give you the short version. There are a lot of different pigments in your leaves. Chlorophyll happens to be a major one because the job of chlorophyll is it does capture light, and then it does that whole chemical reaction where sunlight is used to rip the hydrogen, which is full of energy, off of the water molecules. It is then combined with the carbon and oxygen from the carbon dioxide that we exhale and forms glucose. I mean, that's photosynthesis. Well, there are other pigments in your leaf. So in the fall, the tree breaks the chlorophyll down and draws it back to the roots, but some of these other pigments remain in the leaf, and that's your yellow color. I think it's really cool, especially on days like this with the light shining through it. I miss some of the bright fall colors of the East Coast, but this has its own kind of beauty, especially when you put those golden leaves against this dark pine. It's a little bit of each. And by the way, that's why it's called the Black Hills, is because of this dark pine. It really does look dark from the distance, and I wish this dash cam could pick it up. But, as I drive into Belle Fourche, you've seen it, but you really can't see the Black Hills on this dash cam. You see it in reality, not on the dash cam. Also, you'll see a lot of motorcyclists out, totally changing the subject, a lot of motorcyclists out enjoying these roads. I think they're nice drives if you're on a motorcycle. You'll see bikers enjoying this road, the speed limit 35, so you're not racing by highway speeds. And, I kind of think, I'm not really a 19-mile biker, but I suppose I could be. It's kind of fun. I think it would be nice to go on a bike and just at a leisurely pace explore the whole thing. When you take things a little slower, you see a lot of details that you miss. And maybe you can take off and just explore some little feature that just looks kind of neat. I remember as a kid at a campground up in the Adirondacks, seeing a really cool bog that you would just drive by. So I used to love exploring that bog as a kid when we'd camp there. It wasn't much you'd notice just going by, but when you slow down on foot, you see it, and you're like, wow, this is right here, and nobody even notices it. So that's something I used to love as a kid. But anyway, so I need to go to the Black Hills more often, and I think doing these videos is helping me to do that, just because it is so fun to explore down here. I was thinking on this trip that maybe there's a different route I could take down to Hill City. I really enjoy going through Lead, but how do I know I won't enjoy this other route as well? So I'll be doing that. Maybe I'll take you along for the trip. Now, what am I trying to say here? So the next video won't be Spearfish Canyon. We'll go up to Lead. I think I took the dash cam off the hook and showed you a little bit of the mine at Lead. You can actually park there and get out. I didn't on this trip. That's another thing I want to explore. I want to walk up and down Main Street Lead. I pretty much trust the parking brake in this car. My old car I did not. But I am a little nervous just because this car is so old, parking on Leeds Main Street. So it may be a long walk. We'll see. I might prefer to park up top where it's a little more level. I don't want that car to get away from me because it's all I have. And I am vaguely looking at replacing this car, but I'm of the opinion that if it's running well and it's reliable, save your cash. A lot of people get rid of cars far before they need to, and I don't want to be one of those people. I totally expected us to be at Cheyenne Crossing long before now. So apparently I had already... There it is. Just as I say that, we finally get to Cheyenne Crossing. So if you're into Western and Western culture and all that, apparently, let's see, Calamity Jane rode the Deadwood to Cheyenne stagecoach, and they'd make scheduled stops right there at Spearfish Crossing, which is what it was called then. Now it's called Cheyenne Crossing. She was employed as a shotgun rider, and they say she killed 4 stage robbers and notched her Winchester rifle stock to mark the number of her victims. Who knows if she did. This particular rifle with 4 notches on its stock is on display at the Spearfish Canyon Foundation, wherever that is. I'm guessing in Spearfish, but I don't know. Here we go. The drivers would rough lock the wheels of their wagons with logs or chains to prevent them from turning, hitch the horses to the rear, and slowly skid down the slope. Breakneck Gulch near here was named after a rough locking incident that occurred nearly 100 years ago. So, now you know. But we're on Highway 85, headed up the hill. Time for me to stop talking and start the next video. So we'll see you later. Bye-bye.